Told you I'd win.
Ok. Uy. Pero que estaba allá, pues, weón. La vencida. No hay nada de solo la verdad. No vaciles. Mejor golpe. En este duelo uno ha de caer. Tengo alguna idea, pero mejor no sacar conclusiones precipitadas.
Good plan. Impossible things don't just happen. We'll get to the truth one way or another.
Claro.
Just relax. Even if everyone else suspects Lenny and Lynette, at least we will be supporting them from the stands.
Gracias.
Besides, I doubt Farina understands any more about what happened than we do.
Thanks, Navia. Well, we'll be going then.
Best of luck to you.
Vamos al juicio.
Ah, finally, you're back. Well, how did your investigation go?
To be honest, you might be disappointed.
No. We're already very grateful that you were willing to help.
Well, now, don't you all look disappointed? Don't tell me that your investigation came up empty-handed. That was to be expected, of course. The guilty can never produce proof of their innocence. But don't let that stop you. I shall be terribly disappointed should you, my most anticipated foe, concede so easily.
Espera y verás, amiga.
Since both parties are present, I declare that the trial regarding the magic show incident is now in session.
Pues no hay nadie.
Firstly, in order for the audience to understand the causes and results of the incident, could we please have Mr. Linney explain the trick?
Yes, of course. I will explain while Lynette demonstrates on stage. All the necessary items have been prepared.
Thank you, Mr. Linney. In that case, I take your statement to be that you ran to and remained hidden within the magic box in the audience stands once the trick began, and thus could not have committed the crime. Is this correct?
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor.
In that case, I call upon the prosecution. Lady Farina, do you wish to refute his statement in any way?
Why, of course I do. Allow me to take the first shot and break this case wide open. Mr. Lenny is clearly lying. There is no way you could have been in the box the whole time if you were to abduct Halsey and murder Cowell. In fact, I'd say you were hardly in that tunnel at all.
That is simply your hypothesis based on the presumption that I'm guilty.
Oh, is that so? And if I may ask, what did you hear while you were inside your box?
The roaring countdown of the crowd, of course. That's how I kept track of the time and built anticipation for the finale.
And you didn't hear anything else at all? Nothing that might leave an impression of any kind?
No, nothing.
I see. But when the count reached 30 seconds or so, there was a thud. One so loud that I believe practically everyone heard it.
Huh?
Hey, hang on. Something's not right here.
Yeah, I'm sure he could have heard a noise that loud from inside the box.
I was right by the box and I definitely heard the thud.
Look at those scales. Could those mean...
Creo que representa la postura del analizador.
Well then, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to use the words of the magician himself. You never know what can happen in the blink of an eye. Indeed, it seems his alibi can also collapse in the blink of an eye. Of course, I have armed myself to do far more than smash your alibi. Confidence cannot go unfounded, and my foundations are rock solid. Tell me, aren't you and Lynette actually from the House of the Hearth?
The House of the Hearth?
Chucha. Son de Fatui.
No wonder they did something like this.
So the serial disappearances were the Fatsui's doing.
Pero
Now it
hermano,
all makes sense.
una cosa es que sean descendientes de los Fatui y otra cosa es que hayan cometido los errores.
I've got a feeling that what happened on stage probably wasn't just an accident.
That's irrelevant. Our identities have nothing to do with what happened.
Indeed. Then perhaps you could tell us everything that happened during that 1 minute. Your first priority is to prove yourself innocent after all. I'm sure there is little that needs to be kept secret now. Unless your script already has holes in it. The Outlander is speechless. My, oh my, don't they look flabbergasted? Now comes the infighting and discord, I suppose. This was almost too easy. Good thing I made all those preparations. Seems the all-nighter I pulled last night is really paying off.
Chucha.
Hey, Lenny. Why didn't you tell us this before?
Order! Order!
¡Cállense, mierda!
Mr. Linney, allow me to re-establish the facts. Lady Farina has raised 2 points. First, when the thud was heard in the Opera House, you were neither in the box nor the tunnel. Second, you and Ms. Lynette are both members of the House of the Hearth. Are these claims true?
Ya he sido víctima de sus complots anteriormente. Y ahora... ¿Y ahora qué?
Please answer my question, Mr. Linney.
I'm sorry.
Juicio.
Yes, they're true, Your Honor.
I knew it!
Well, that's it. We might as well move on to the sentencing already.
What should we do now?
Objeción.
Granted. In that case, what is your request?
Is that really necessary? They're already as good as guilty.
The defendant deceived their own attorneys. What is there left to discuss?
Chan.
Order! Order, I say!
Cállense, mierda.
Your request is reasonable, and we shall adjourn. This trial will reconvene in 1 hour.
So you would stick to Mr. Linney's defense even after knowing what you do now? You certainly have more professionalism than I thought. joy of victory to steep for a little while longer.
Well, this is awkward. I didn't think the Hydro Archon would dig all that up. I'm sorry, Traveler and Paimon.
Yeah, sorry.
Paimon doesn't know where to start. We trusted you two. We based our entire reasoning on the assumption that you weren't bad guys. Not to set the wrong tone or anything, but Paimon's really mad!
I'm very sorry. I know you're angry, and reasonably so, but please, let me explain. I know you've clashed with the Fatui several times before. I wouldn't be surprised if just hearing the word is enough to make you upset.
Sí, sí quiero ir.
But our organization is very, very large, and the Harbingers have very different personalities and goals.
Right now, we want to save people. As many as we can.
That's right. I'm sure we're on the same page when it comes to this nation and the disaster that its people might face.
Interesante.
I knew if it weren't for our respective identities, we could become good friends.
Voy, vuelvo medio hombre.
That's why I didn't wish to flat out lie to you, but chose to hide some details instead. The truth is very important, but being completely transparent about everything would see us spending more effort than we need to. Right. So, you be the judge. Heck, if I were you, I fear that I'd even struggle to trust me at this point. You met a Fatus who works as a magician, a trickster by trade. All by coincidence, too. But still, I'm asking you to trust me. I am no criminal. At least, not in this case.
Sorry. Please forgive us.
Well, you both say that, but... Right. Let's hear your answer first, and no lies now!
Of course. I'll answer any question you ask. We've been trying to find out how the Oratrice operates. We want to know why it has a consciousness. Why can it deliver sentences accurately? During our investigations, we learned that the machine's core is beneath it. From that moment on, Lynette and I have been designing this box swap trick, with the objective of getting close to the core.
Is that why you needed a whole minute?
That's right. In truth, the audience would take about 75 seconds to count down from 60, while I would only need 15 to get to the opposite box. So, after jumping into the tunnel, I accessed the Opera House basement via the vent, and went to investigate the room in which the core is stored.
That air vent was created during the construction of the tunnel specifically to execute this step.
Ya vi, ¿qué averiguaron?
Well, nothing. As soon as I reached that room and was about to investigate, I heard someone's voice. Which should have been impossible, of course. I was quite certain that I was the only one in the room. That voice seemed to recognize me and tried to speak to me. I chose to err on the side of caution and retreated the way I came. On the way back, I saw the broken vase and the clothes on the ground, but the countdown was almost finished, so there wasn't time to give it any thought. After that, the homicide occurred just as you saw.
Well, that explains why you didn't hear the thud.
¿Por qué quieren averiguar cómo fue eso?
Because of that prophecy I told you about, of course. We must know all we can about this nation's secrets in order to deal with that prophesized crisis.
That's the only way we can save everyone.
¿Profecía?
So, there you have it. The whole truth. I swear, it was never my wish to proceed under this cloud of mistrust either. But, like I said earlier, you can be the judge. If you want to leave because you don't trust the Fatui, there's nothing I can do to stop you.
Sí. Oye, he encontrado unos futai que son buena onda, así que... No, yo no me descarto la idea de encontrar futai que son buena onda.
Well, Traveler, you decide. Paimon will follow your lead however you choose.
Creo en la verdad.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for giving us a chance.
The current problem is that the scales are tipped pretty badly against you two. If we want to refute the Hydro Archon's accusations, we're gonna need a seriously watertight defense.
Tenemos la prueba clave.
Huh?
Ya termina, retomamos.
Oh, Paimon thinks she gets what you mean.
Oye, la Paimon se sacó los lentes. Testimonio de Linnei. Tras entrar en el túnel, Linnei llegó a la sala del núcleo de la analizadora a través del conducto de ventilación. Por ello no fue testigo de lo ocurrido y tampoco escuchó el extraño sonido que se produjo. Voz procedente de la sala del núcleo de la analizadora. Y nadie escuchó una misteriosa voz procedente de la sala subterránea de la ópera, en la que se encuentra el núcleo de la analizadora. Lástima que no me deja en ningún momento a sola con los weones para sacarme una foto.
Both parties have returned to their positions. Let us continue the trial. When last we left off, Mr. Linney acknowledged the new evidence presented by Lady Farina as fact. Therefore, Lady Farina may continue stating her reconstruction of the events.
That took long enough. Now then, if everyone would lend me their attention. At this stage, let's revisit that scene from Linney's perspective.
Objection. Encuentra la falla en la lógica de la otra persona, basándote en la descripción que dieron los hechos. Ay, puta la wea. No. A mí que me carga hacer estas cosas. Refuta los sucesos que no pueden ser ciertos con la ayuda de las pruebas de la pista. Ay, vamos a ver si es que logro hacer esto. Yo no sé de leyes. Yo soy ingeniero, no abogado. Completará el ciclo de refutación y descubrirá la verdad una vez haya refutado todas las alegaciones que no pueden ser ciertas.
As the countdown began, he entered the tunnel.
Vamos a hacerlo así. A ver. En primer lugar, Linney llegó al túnel cuando la cuenta regresiva de polvo comenzó.
When the flatbed trolley passed, he opened the box and got into an altercation with Halsey, which caused the loud thud. He did not realize that this sound could be heard by everyone in the opera house, which is why he claimed earlier that he could not hear the sound. Finally, he used the vase to knock her out, before making her change clothes to prevent others from recognizing her. At this time, Cowell arrived in the tunnel, having heard that strange noise, and caught Linney red-handed.
Ah, esta es la desaparecida, po. Y este es el que mataron, po.
So Linney proceeded to knock him out too before stuffing him into that box. Afterward, Linney passed the unconscious Halsey to his accomplice through the magic box in the audience stands, before operating the devices such that Cowell's death would be ruled an accident. And there you have it. That's the truth behind what happened.
Does the defendant's side have any objections to Lady Farina's description of the events?
The key to refuting Lady Farina is the order of events, what Linney experienced, and what he saw.
Oh, la voz del viajero.
According to Linny, he left via the vent after entering the tunnel. He couldn't have had that altercation with Halsey.
Solía entrar a la ópera. La prueba en relación a... ¿Qué podía refutarse con esto es? Vale, tengo que encontrar algo que refutar la prueba de que Lenny secuestró a Halsey. Puede ser ella, su voz.
Linny went to the room that contains the Oratrice's core. This is the actual truth.
Cowell sorprendió a Linnea con la mano en la masa, así que este golpeó con un jarrón y lo que dejó inconsciente y dio pie a su posterior muerte. Las pruebas apuntan a que cuando Linnea volvió al incidente ya había ocurrido y lo único que vio fue la ropa.
Lenny did not take part in the underground altercation. He only witnessed traces of the aftermath.
Attention! Ace Detective Paimon has something to say! When the countdown started, Linny did indeed go into the tunnel. But he immediately used a vent to access the Opera House basement, which is where the underground core of the Oratrice is stored. Once he reached that area, he heard a voice in what should have been an empty room. Since he felt something was amiss, he returned immediately. The crime scene had already developed by the time he reached the tunnel again, and in order to complete the magic trick, he did not remain there for any length of time. Finally, he reached the surface, and that was when the accident happened from his point of view. Therefore, he's innocent!
Buena.
Paimon did it! Paimon actually managed to say all that! Wasn't it awesome?
In other words, you believe that he knew nothing of the incident?
Claro.
That's right!
Además, hay fallas en las conclusiones del acusador. De la acusación.
My reasoning?
Alguien manipuló de forma premeditada los objetos del
If
escenario.
that's the case, then if Cowell hadn't entered the tunnel, who was the entire setup meant to kill? Assuming that what you say is true, Linny only needed to kidnap the young girl to cause a new disappearance case. What would the point of killing someone on stage be?
Claro.
Oh, they have a point.
That's right, you tell him! And that's why they're partners of mine. They've managed to turn things... Oh, well, your denial is very strident, I'll give you that. But what proof do you have to back
Juicio.
your claims? Of course I do. If he had been in the magic box the whole time, how could he have not heard that sound? Why do you ask? You're saying that he wasn't?
No. ¿Qué prueba demuestra que Linnea no estaba en el túnel cuando tuvo lugar el crimen? Expediente del caso del cambiazo de la ópera.
That's right! Lenny wasn't in the box or in the tunnel. That's why he didn't hear anything strange during the performance. This means that when the crime happened, Lenny had already entered the basement via the vent. The same clue you used to disprove his alibi has now become the best proof! How do you like that?
Well played.
To think you'd use such logic. Well then, if it wasn't Lenny who committed the crimes, then who was it?
Escoge la respuesta y rellena los engranajes vacíos para comprobar si tu opción es correcta o no. Si te equivocas en algo, deberás coger algo distinto entre las opciones que quedan. Completarás la deducción en cadena una vez que hayas respondido correctamente a todas las preguntas. Según la investigación de la guardia, los fuegos artificiales que explotaron cuando el espectáculo iba a terminar quemaron la cuerda que sostenía en el tanque de agua. Esto provocó que el tanque se presionara contra el baúl mágico en el que se encontraba Cowell, causándole la muerte. Descartando a Linnea como sospechoso, lo único que podrían haber manipulado la herramienta mágica son los demás miembros del grupo de magia. Linnea explicó cómo hizo el número de magia. Envió a través de un túnel el baúl de doble fondo donde estaba la espectadora, y también llegó al otro lado por medio del túnel. Mientras tanto, en el escenario, Linnea se cambió de ropa para cumplir con su papel de ayudante. Por motivos que no se conocen, la ropa de Hasley y la chica desaparecida estaba tirada en el túnel.
Could there have been a third person involved? Is that really a possibility? The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment. Halsey is the missing person and an ordinary audience member. Or did she have her own scheme all along?
O sea, que ella haya sido la mala y que quiere culpar a Linnea.
Could there have been a third person involved? Halsey is the missing person and an ordinary. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's. Halsey is the missing person and an ordinary audience. Could there have been a...
¿No?
The
Ok,
deceased's
¿este puede haber
name
sido?
is Cowell.
Huh? That can't be right. Are you serious? The killer was, in fact, Cowell, the deceased!
Oh, is that so? How interesting! Let's hear your reasoning then.
What I must do next is recreate the truth. What Cowell did, and how he went from would-be perpetrator to victim.
Que se haya equivocado y que haya resultado ser el muerto. ¿Cómo se podría saber si Killian y Nancy fueron el crimen?
No one entered or left the Opera House through its entrances. So where would the criminal have wanted to take Halsey? The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel, so there must have been some fear that she would attract attention. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time.
Si Killian está en el túnel en aquel momento, los que dio mucho tiempo para el asesino.
It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. They would likely have bumped into Linny as well. No one entered or left the Opera House through its entrances. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel, so there must have been some fear that she would attract attention. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment.
A ver, ¿cómo podemos hacer esto?
Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel, so there... The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment. Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time.
No, no, coche.
No one entered or left the Opera House through its entrances. So where would the criminal have wanted to take Halsey? Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel, so no one entered or left.
Vale. El 81.
Linny was not in the tunnel at that. No one entered or left the op. Halsey's clothing was in the.
Vale. Chucha. Lenny no tuvo tiempo en el túnel durante ese minuto, pero Cowell podría haber sacado a Halsey del túnel debido a la que había la granada. Pero si proseguimos así, tenemos que con la forma de tener a disco duro. tu. Según el testimonio de la guardia en ese momento, nadie salió o entró de la ópera, así que Cowell no podía haberse marchado aunque quisiera. Pues no habla de que, de hecho, está imposible que el producto no lo recuerde ahí realmente. Pues no habla de que, de hecho, es imposible que el público no lo viera.
What's wrong, Traveler? Are you still having trouble figuring things out?
I see how it is. So this was all just a bluff. And here I thought you had something to show for it. But it seems you're still far from the truth.
Sí, pues, ¿dónde está la desgraciada, weón?
Look, since we're at a dead end, why not consider a different track?
Vale.
Just like the trick as it transpired, the end result must have been utterly different from the magician's initial design.
Exactamente.
If only we knew how Halsey disappeared.
Well, that would be nice, but the tunnel only has 3 exits, and none of them seem very likely. And it's not like this is a magic trick where you can just make a real live person disappear. You know, like you did from that water tank, Lynette.
¿Y la agua?
Excuse my interruption, dear opponents. But do you not see that the crowd is growing impatient? There is no greater sin in this opera house than an awkward delay in the performance.
If the defense is unable to make further effective arguments, we will move on to the next stage of the trial.
Un momento.
Minnie was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment. No one entered or left the opera house through its entrances. So where... The vase was not broken by chance. It was used to cover important evidence. The water!
Paimon gets it! It all comes together if Halsey disappeared instead of being kidnapped. Lynette escaped from the water tank, vanishing gradually and leaving only clothes behind. If there's a similar method where a person could be transformed into water...
Ah, ¿verdad que la que hace a Paimon es gringa, weón? Eso dice water.
Just a moment, please. I do hope you know how preposterous you sound at the moment.
¿Qué?
How could could a person ever be transformed into water? This is reality we're talking about here, not some magic trick.
Te vas a encontrar mejor con la pertenencia de Cooper.
Must we really? I should think that of anyone. Your friend Linny already knows this truth very well. Magic tricks are ultimately just illusions and misdirection. But Halsey's disappearance is very real. We're talking about two completely different things.
Even so, I trust the Traveler's judgment. The truth must be out there somewhere. Perhaps some new line of reasoning may open if we try to gather all the focal points that don't make sense. Since Cal was the deceased, we haven't placed much attention on him. But given that we aren't making much progress with the case, it wouldn't hurt to have a look at his belongings, would it?
People really do come up with all sorts of harebrained schemes when at the end of their rope. The way I see it, your suggestion that we broaden the scope of our investigation is nothing but a tactic for stalling the trial.
Nevertheless, I believe that this is a reasonable request on the part of an attorney. Since the trial does indeed appear to be at an impasse, I believe that additional evidence may help us make more progress. Guards, please step into the lounge and examine the personal effects of the deceased Cowell.
We are still examining the items, but we have already made critical progress that we feel must be shared with everyone post-haste.
¿De verdad vi algo?
We discovered several test tubes of fluid within Cowell's baggage, each labeled separately. The notebook in his backpack claims that these fluids are water from the primordial sea.
A ver, además de su mochila había un cuaderno en el que dicho líquido aparecía clasificado como agua del mar
The
primogénito.
primordial sea.
The note's contents also indicate that Cowell belonged to an organization that sells illegal drugs and that he had an accomplice. The notebook has many entries concerning safe usage of these fluids, in which the keyword dissolve appears many times.
Disolverse.
One of these tubes was labeled Opera Epiclese, along with yesterday's date. It is empty. The notes also state that these dissolution properties work exclusively on people from Fontaine. It's likely that Halsey was chosen as some sort of test subject. As such, we believe that the defense's hypothesis is, in fact, supported by sufficient evidence.
You've got to be kidding! People dissolving into water?
Al parecer sí.
Could something so ridiculous actually be true?
Wait a moment. This reminds me of a certain prophecy, but it's just a coincidence, isn't it?
Huh. If people can become water, does that mean that the water tank's real use was as a means to hide water stains? And if Cowell was targeting that girl... Wait just a minute. Could that mean... You two, with me, quick!
Demoiselle, wait! What about your partners?
Let's go. Just trust me.
Order! Order! It is undeniable that further examination of the deceased's personal effects has yielded some surprising results, but we cannot yet verify the veracity of these clues.
Bueno, eso es verdad.
Still, let us assume that these clues are indeed authentic, albeit with the understanding that Ms. Halsey has yet to be found.
Entonces, hemos ganado tiempo.
Guards, please continue examining the items along these lines. Mr. Linney, it appears your hypothesis is supported by the evidence, so please continue speaking.
Of course. Thank you, Your Honor. If we uphold this hypothesis, I believe that many of this case's seemingly unrelated clues can be connected together.
Right! Like the metal hook! That one didn't make sense at all. Let's think about this. Cowell's methods must have something to do with that water from the primordial sea.
Vamos.
The rope that held the water tank up was lit by the fireworks and snapped. As such, the focus here is on the water and not the tank. Now it seems like the hook rope was not meant for another magic trick, but was instead some form of triggering mechanism. The water from the primordial sea should already have been prepped before Halsey entered the magic box. Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. Did she have something to do with this? I remember there was something else within the inner layer of that box. The rope that held the water tank up was lit by the fireworks and snapped. As such, the focus here is on the water. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment. The rope that held the water tank up was lit. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment. Now it seems like the hook... The water from the primordial sea Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. The water from the primordial... Now it seems like the hook rope was not... The rope that held the water... The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment.
Pero es que porque se mató, po.
The rope that held the water tank up. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment.
Ay. Está complicada esta cosa, weón.
Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. I remember there was something else within the inner... The deceased's name is...
Puta.
The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. Now it seems like the hook rope was not meant. Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. Did she have something to do with this? I remember there was something else. The deceased's name is Cowell. Lynette was in the magic box on stage. Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. Now it seems like the... The water from the primordial sea should already have been
Ahem! It's Ace Detective Paimon's time to shine again! In the original plan, Cowell would tamper with the water tank rope and the number selector securing his target. When the magic box containing Halsey was lowered, the metal hook would retract gradually and pierce the balloon at the top of the box. When the balloon attached to the box popped, the water from the primordial seed inside it would pour down and dissolve Halsey. Afterward, Cowell would enter the tunnel and break the flower vase to conceal the water inside the tunnel, with the remaining evidence being covered up by the water tank on stage. But he encountered something unexpected in the tunnel, and wound up being fatally hit by the same water tank he meant to use to cover his tracks.
Huh. That does make sense.
That actually links together a lot of the more confusing pieces of evidence.
Oh dear, what do I do? Even I think they sound convincing now. Have I falsely accused an innocent person? What a humiliation.
Now, it seems like the only point of contention remaining is the exact circumstances that led to Cal's death. His notes mentioned he had an accomplice who could be related to the situation.
On that note, the guards have just contacted me indicating that they uncovered new evidence. I shall now invite him on stage to share it with us.
Thank you, Your Honor. We were just inspecting the luggage of the other people involved in this case. And we found an identical sample of the water from the primordial sea among Linny's personal effects.
Puta la wea.
What?
That can't be.
Oh, I see. Well, how wonderfully comedic to have your own counterattack only to come back and wound you. Does this not clear all doubt? My dear citizens, my loyal audience, allow me to present my reasoning and bring this performance to a swift close. Linny did not need to take part in the dissolution of the young woman at all. Indeed, he did leave the scene via the vent. Having made modifications to the props beforehand, his accomplice Cowl then caused Halsey to vanish using the water from the primordial sea. But upon his return, in cruel avarice, Linny desired sole credit and prepared to do away with his partner in crime. Ultimately, he knocked Cowl out, and the tool meant to cover the crime up also became a murder weapon. Now, as much as I regret having come to such a viciously straightforward conclusion, it does seem that the famed Fatui is quite the cold-blooded and ruthless organization. Am I right, Mr. Linny?
We've used up all the evidence we collected. There's no way for us to make a rebuttal here. Is this the end of the road?
Shusha.
Oh no. Paimon can't think of anything either. It doesn't look like there's any way around this. Seems using the water as new evidence was too good a move. Why did this have to happen now?
I think we've all seen enough now, and we have ample witnesses to my flawless reasoning. I believe this is indeed the finale. Now then, my good, noble Chief Justice, should we not, in your view,
Excuse me, everyone, but I must interject.
Shusha.
Miss, I must ask you not to shout, and to respect the ongoing legal proceedings.
Oh, come on. Don't be hasty. I have a good reason for interrupting, you know. Now, would anyone here like to take a little break from all this debate and see a little magic? I'll show you an amazing trick. One that can bring a young woman who has disappeared back in the flesh, right before your very eyes. Please, do the honors, Mr. Linny, if you would be so kind.
What in the world is she saying?
No offense, miss, but miracles like that are beyond my scope as a magician.
Come on now, don't be silly. Magic is all about misdirection, isn't it? It often conceals the truth while presenting a fascinating illusion. But once everyone believes the illusion, can't magic reveal the truth to them once again? And wouldn't such a trick be the most marvelous finale to today's performance? Come on, Linny and Lynette. Give it another go. Don't worry. Spina di Rasula has made the necessary arrangements on your behalf.
Entiendo qué pretende, bueno.
But, as the magic makers and stars of the show, I think I should leave the final performance to you.
I understand.
And voila!
Sorry for the interruption.
What?
Wait, isn't that Halsey? So the whole thing about people dissolving wasn't true after all?
To be clear, I'm only here because this person told me that if I testified, the merit of doing so would lessen my sentence. I was hiding outside this room listening to the proceedings because I was afraid that I would be the one put on trial.
What?
I was just feeling happy that no one had noticed me, and then before I knew it, she caught me.
That'll teach you to underestimate us three.
Where should I begin? I'm sorry. I'm the one who killed Cowl. I admit it.
Shusha. Eso no me lo esperaba.
What? Why?
Firstly, my name isn't Halsey. It's Lillian, and I'm originally from Mondstadt.
Shush. The Mondstadt?
I heard that Linny's show was gonna be a real thriller, but I missed the chance to buy a ticket, so I stole one. That's how I make a living. I steal stuff here and there. And I'd never been caught before. But I was noticed at the harbor a few days ago, and I barely got away. Linny was the one who caught me in the act.
Hey, no wonder you look familiar. So you were the thief! Liddy even mentioned that you were pretty skilled.
Well, and I thought that would have been the end of it, but then the number selector chose me. He even mentioned the Fortress of Meripede. That's a prison, isn't it? So you can imagine how shocked I was. I thought he was on to me for sure. So I played along with the show while looking for an opening to flee, but then I got water poured on me for no reason, and then someone jumped into the tunnel to nab me. I wasn't going to take that lying down, so I knocked him out and stuffed him into the box. There was nowhere to run from there, though, so I had to change my clothes and hide in a box containing performance costumes. I slipped out after the first guard arrived at the scene and continued hiding inside the opera house.
Can a person even hide in there?
Supongo que si tiene práctica.
But I swear I didn't know that the water tank would fall down. Really, I swear it. Had I known that, I wouldn't have put him in the magic box. I may be a thief, but I'm no killer.
Well, that makes everything pretty clear now, doesn't it?
This time, we need to tell the entire story from Lily Ann's perspective. Seems this won't produce.
No?
Seems this.
Puta. No, esto pasó.
Seems
Ah,
this.
la puta madre, weón.
The strange sound wasn't from a fight. It was Lily Ann's attempt to break out when she was frightened.
Esto no es pelo ganchito, pues, weón.
The flower vase was not broken to cover anything up, but was smashed during the struggle between Lily Ann and Cowell.
¿La habrá pegado con el gancho? Ah.
Sí.
Este es el gancho.
Seems this
Nah,
won't
pero
produce a
weón.
particularly. See.
Fíjate. ¿Quién me falta entonces?
Liliane was afraid that she would be recognized if she left, so she changed clothes and hid, biding her time. Just what one might expect of an experienced thief.
And it's Ace Detective Paimon time! Having been selected out of the blue, Liliane panicked. Her panic only intensified after she entered the tunnel and had water poured on her head. So she kicked the door open, producing the thud we all heard. Hearing the commotion, Cowl leapt into the tunnel, only to discover that Liliane had not dissolved. He did not know that Liliane was not from Fontaine, but was a thief who made her way in by stealing a ticket. Mistakenly believing that the water from the primordial sea needed time to take effect, he tried to force Liliane back into the box. The two broke the flower vase during the struggle, but Liliane came out on top, knocking Cowl out and putting him in the box. With no way of escaping, she changed her clothes and hid in the costume trunk until the performance ended.
¿Pero por qué se cayó el coso entonces? Po? A menos que tenga otro coso.
She knew that she would have to go through guard inspection if she tried to leave afterward. So, she has been trapped in the Opera House these last 2 days.
She had already become desperately hungry by the time we were chatting over macarons. So, she swiped 2 of them right under our noses. Talk about a sneaky thief.
At this point, all the events that happened in the tunnel have now come to light.
Ah, so that's the whole story.
Bravo! Bravo!
Now then, Lady Farina, do you wish to speak against the defense's statements? Please answer the question, Lady Farina. Also, if I may add, the trial has not yet ended. As such, I request that the prosecution not leave the room before the proceedings have concluded.
What? Are you reading my mind now? No, I have no further arguments. I admit defeat. But really, could you at least have left me with some dignity?
Wow, look at that! She's like a deflated balloon now.
If there are no objections, Then as the Chief Justice of Fontaine, I shall once again repeat the full sequence of events. The actual perpetrator of the serial disappearances, Cowell, selected his next victim from the audience reservation list.
Ay, qué sufrido.
With some modifications to the selector, he could ensure that the pre-selected young woman would be chosen.
Porque tuvo la mala cueva que justo eligió a alguien que no era de Fontaine, po, weón.
To cover up any evidence while committing the deed, Cowell thought of allowing the water tank to fall, which would conceal the water left behind after the young woman was dissolved. He also tampered with the rope suspending the water tank, using the fireworks at the end of the performance to cause the tank to drop and hide the watermarks. He poured the water from the primordial sea into a balloon during the preparation of the magic box and stuck it to the box's lid. Finally, he passed the prepared hook on a rope through the gap in the magic box's door when bringing the young woman to said box. When the magic trick officially began, the box containing the woman was lowered into the tunnel, tightening the hook rope and bursting the balloon containing the water. If all had gone to plan, the young woman would be dissolved at this time. However, Liliane was not from Fontaine, and thus fled the box with a loud noise. Realizing that there was trouble, Cowell entered the tunnel and met Liliane. Thinking that the waters had not yet taken effect, he decided to proceed. However, his opponent was more capable than he thought, and he was overcome, knocked unconscious, and placed into the magic box, and thus became his own final victim. Liliane, according to her own statements, then changed clothes and hid until the performance ended, before hiding in other parts of the opera house. As for Linny, he was in the underground structures within the opera house, and was thus ignorant of these happenings. From this reconstruction of events, we can conclude that Linny, the accused, is in fact innocent.
Pero sí es culpable de introducirse en esa parte que es ilegal, po, ¿no? O que con acceso restringido.
While there is much in Linny and Liliane's conduct that should still be investigated separately, this case, at least, can be handed over to the Oratrice to make the final decision. As such, Linny and Lynette are officially declared not guilty.
¡Bravo!
Great work, partners.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Una carta en victoria.
I think we deserve an explanation, Guard Vaughn.
¿Por qué había agua primigenia en la pertenencia del weón?
How did you find the water from the primordial sea in Linny's baggage?
Parece que era el otro compinche del malo, ¿no? Puede ser.
Your discovery caused me to make a serious mistake, you know. Or was that not a discovery, but false evidence that you dared to bring before this court?
I suspect that the accomplice mentioned in Cowell's notes was not Linny, but you, yes? I'm sure you know what you must do to lessen your sentence.
Speak quickly! Unless you want to earn yourself a one-way ticket to Coupon Town.
I was just following orders. We were supposed to place blame for the serial disappearances onto Linny, and thus cause suspicion to fall on the Fatui. The higher-ups said this was the best opportunity to do so.
¿Sobre los Futai?
And now that your plan has fallen through, and the secrets of the water have been revealed, you have become a liability to said higher-ups, yes? Therefore, you would be wise to tell everything you know and seek the protection of the guards.
Claro. O si no, los van a desvivir.
Yes, I'll tell you everything I know. Our boss discovered that the water can cause people to dissolve. It can also be made into a potion, which when extremely diluted, can cause people to experience unforgettable exhilaration. We've been in this business for a while now, and have made decent mora off it. The disappearances were also the boss's idea. I mean, this is the boss we're talking about. The...
Lo van a desvivir antes, ¿no? Esto está muy interesante.
And now he can no longer talk.
¿Cómo? ¿Tan rápido? ¿Alguien le tuvo que haber disparado, no?
Such ruthlessness. I shouldn't have expected any less of them.
¿Los Futai?
An outrageous act. All present, please submit to inspection immediately.
Puta la wea. Salimos de una para encontrarnos con otra, wea.
So, we're just going back now?
Aquí ya no nos necesitan.
That's true, but...
Aquí ya no nos necesitan, dije.
Traveler, Paimon, please wait.
Ah, ya, po. ¿Qué quiere?
I know you may not want to speak to me right now. Maybe you don't even want to look at me. But still, let me thank you again for defending me to the end, even after you learned that I'm a member of the Fatui. I guess. But regardless, I'd like the opportunity to set things straight. I didn't approach you with any ulterior motives or ill intent. I've spoken to you as myself, just plain Linny this entire time.
Yeah.
As for why I'm a Fatus, it's because the goals of the House of the Hearth align with those of an orphan like me. That's all. That was how Father, who you might know as the Knave, approached recruiting us back then too.
The Knave? The one who controls the House of the Hearth? She's your father?
That's right. And since we're here, I was wondering, would you mind hearing a story? It's about my past. Back when our parents first died, Lynette and I were left wandering the streets. To survive, I took to surreptitiously observing an older street performer who did magic. It took me several days to figure out how he pulled off his amazing tricks. I took my sister through several streets until we found a crowded corner, and we began to perform magic tricks there. To my surprise, we proved to be pretty popular, and we could at least stop worrying about where our next meal would come from for a time. But I didn't want my sister to remain a street rat together with me forever. Before long, an aristocrat came to me and claimed that he wished to take us in after watching my performances.
Ya.
So you went from orphans to nobility just like that?
That was how we felt at first, too. As if fate was on our side and we could say goodbye to those painful days.
Puta, pero les cobraron favor, ¿o no?
But I gradually discovered that while we were called foster children, he was really after my talent for magic tricks. He would constantly take me to all sorts of banquets to garner attention, which he would then use to expand his social circles.
That doesn't seem too bad either. Better than roaming the streets at any rate.
It took a while for me to realize just how dark his heart really was. After one particular performance at a banquet, I discovered that Lynette was not on the same return vehicle as me. I waited a long time after we returned home, but she did not come back. I went to that noble's bedroom and asked him about her whereabouts.
¿Qué pasó?
The answer he gave me was, she caught the eye of the most eminent person at the banquet, so I sent her over as a gift. I mean, you'll be able to perform your magic regardless of who your assistant is, yes?
Conche tu madre. No, pero amigo, no. El bastardo culiao. No.
Oh no. So he was gonna... But wouldn't Fontaine's laws deal with such people?
Siempre y cuando haya una orden, ¿no? O testigos. O influencia.
As far as outsiders are concerned, this is a relationship akin to adoption or foster care, and they have their ways of escaping the eye of the law. I managed to ferret out the location of the mansion of that so-called eminent person and hurried through the night. But by the time I leaped over the walls, avoided the guards, and made my way in, all I saw was the moonlit ground covered in blood, and the knave standing there in the darkness.
So, she'd already taken care of that guy.
That's right. She had rescued my sister before she could come to any harm, and had even discovered several girls hidden in a basement, all of them orphans.
No.
Father, I mean, the knave, might have seen something in me, and so she made me an offer. The House of the Hearth welcomes you, for your interests align with ours. Here, none will ever betray you. Indeed, betrayal shall never be permitted here. I was hesitant to trust her. I mean, I had just been betrayed by nobles. But she was also quick to destroy the noble who had taken us in at first, giving us back our freedom.
Oh, so that's how the two of you joined the House of the Hearth.
She has her own plans. She has gained permission from the Tsaritsa to first use the Gnosis's power once she obtains it. She plans to use it to find a way to break the prophecy and save Fontaine.
Yeah.
So, she believes in that prophecy too?
That's right. The whole House of the Hearth is currently working to combat that crisis. Today's case has also proven that people from Fontaine can indeed dissolve into some sort of water, thus further supporting the prophecy.
Por eso estaba investigando la decidora de verdad, po.
Everyone at Hotel Bouffe d'été, including the knave, has their roots in Fontaine. And we will always defend our homeland. To us orphans, the only connection we have left to this world, apart from our family, is our homeland.
So, from small deeds like distributing magic pockets to huge schemes like stealing a gnosis, everything is aimed at dealing with that prophecy.
It's all right. I understand. The only thing I can do is relate all this to you. I just hope you can understand that even as a member of the house, I have never stopped making my own decisions, and that I believe what I'm doing is right. If you should need anything at all in the future, feel free to find me. I will do my best to help you, as plain Linny.
Ok. Adiós.
Bye, Linny.
No, pero déjenme sacarme una foto con los cabros, puta la weá.
I'll race you there. Bet you can't keep up with me.
¿Cómo que tengo que irme, no?
Hey! Get him! Go, go, Baron Bunny!
Aunque uno no sé cómo cachó la otra buena que la buena estaba ahí, weón.
Hey there. What was with the disappearing act you pulled right as the trial ended?
Claro. Ay.
Were you looking for us, Navia?
Well, this whole thing isn't exactly over, is it? I do feel that we're getting closer to solving the serial disappearances case, though. Don't you think so, too? Huh? What's wrong, my dear partner?
Sí, pues, mi trabajo era solamente defender el INEI, no sobre el otro caso de los desaparecidos.
Besides, are you sure we're the ones who can crack a case that's been cold for decades now? And given that there's new evidence from the trial, there should be a trail of breadcrumbs for the Hydro Archon's people to follow now, right?
Ah. I see. Well, I won't lie. I'm a little shocked to hear that from you. But I suppose you are just travelers who have only arrived in Fontaine after all.
Sí, pero bueno. Aún ni siquiera hago un tour por, por el país, ya me están pidiendo que es solo un caso de hace 10 años.
Sorry. I might have been too presumptuous.
Don't say that, Navia.
Ah, and we were having so much fun investigating with you, too.
A menos que me paguen. Necesito plata.
It was like having new waters flowing into a stagnant mire, causing new hope to spring forth, and the reflection in the murk to become clear. Sorry about that. I'm a bit prone to nostalgia. Don't mind. Wait, Shall we have a farewell meal? You know, to commemorate our time as partners?
Bueno, comida gratis. No me voy a quejar.
Do we really need to get that formal?
Well, I'd just like to have a proper ending to every important memory. That way there are no regrets later.
Me parece.
Anyway, it would just be a meal, so it shouldn't take up too much of your time.
You don't have to twist Paimon's arm. If Boss Navi is treating, count Paimon in!
Oh, wonderful. In that case, why don't we return to the Court of Fontaine and head to the Hotel de Boer? I believe we'll make it just in time for dinner.
All right then, let's have our farewell meal!
Oh, 11 entonces. Buena. Uy. Llaves de libro, tengo 3. Ahí tengo 12 estos cositos. Ah, pero creo que son 20 para subir de nivel. ¿Y cómo veis de historia? Capítulo 2. Vale.
Bet you can't keep up with me!
Oh, por fin salí de aquí, weón. Y ahora, viendo las 6:30, yo creo que es un buen momento para irse a mimir. No queda nada más por hacer, nada más por hacer. A dormir. A ver. Dudo mucho que haya alguien. Hasta la Cato en vivo. Ahora vamos con la Cato. Bueno, muchas gracias por haberme acompañado el día de hoy. Que ya se llora en volar, se va a acostar ahora, pero bueno. Espero que se hayan divertido. Yo sí me divertí. Dormí un poquito con Genshin, pero bueno. Cosas que pasan, no. Era mucho texto. Bueno, ya estamos sábado. Creo que no puedo hacer directo hoy porque creo que tengo un cumpleaños que tengo que ir. Así que eso nos tenemos viendo el miércoles o el lunes, si es que termino temprano del estudio. Así que eso. Bye bye, cabros. Pórtense bien. Saludos. Digan hola a la Cato. Ay, gracias, Sima, por la raid.
Lito Oe dice, amigo en directo a esta hora. Lito Oe dice, Sadhada justito te vas.
Sí, justo me voy.
Lito Oe dice, buenas noches, Washi.
Igual fueron 9 horas de directo, weón. Puta que Genshin consume cualquier tiempo, weón. Chao, Lito, nos estamos viendo. Bye bye. Cuídate, pórtate bien. Toma agua.